Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Come meet me at the Musial with Alan and Daniel. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. Everyone come gather round, listen to your favorite sound. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We'll talk the games and all the rest, about the team that we love best. We'll talk about the Cardinals all night long. We're gonna talk about the Cardinals all night long.
Good morning and welcome into another edition of Meet Me at Musial. I'm your host, Daniel Stoptall at C70. With me is almost always Alan Medlock, a Medlock1 on Twitter, back from Hawaii. Alan, I know, we were fortunate to have Bernie fill in last week for you, but I imagine you were having more fun than we were.
Yeah, it was actually really, really nice to get away and get out in paradise for a little while. But yeah, I was glad that you're able to find somebody adequate to fill in. But yeah, it was nice. You know, you get out in the sunlight and do that right during an important stretch of the Cardinals game, which I was still able to follow for the most part right before the break. So yeah, I appreciate it, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Cardinals stumble against Milwaukee. That's a series we talked about last week, and then the Braves series, which turned out to be, besides the fact it was waterlogged, I guess the rain delay might have helped you a little bit that day. But turned out to be a pretty decent series. Cardinals have done some good damage against, honestly, anybody except Milwaukee. It really feels like this team can play with anybody, but there's a bit of Achilles heel against the Brewers.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little brother complex a little bit at this point. But the Brewers seem to play well, in the matchups, do a lot of the small things right and can get away and steal both those series really quickly. They cut their heart out in the first three games of this 5-gamer, which was odd anyway. But yeah, it's not hard to kind of look and think, well, the Brewers are just a better team, and you can see the Brewers winning. When you see how the Brewers play the Cardinals, they can win 100 games. It looks like it,
right.
And just tough to get over that hump. And you're right. You turn around and you beat a Braves team that, although, they've trended down, they're still leading the East. So, I don't know. The baseball being as weird as it is, and you see the Brewers go get swept right before the break, So I don't know. It's just crazy right now that the tide have turned in the past 5 to 10 years of what the Brewers are compared to what the Cardinals used to be.
Yeah, it is. It was helpful that the Brewers got swept by the Pirates. It's
Yes.
Surprising, but helpful. Look up the Cardinals. The Cardinals really. It's hard to spend much time looking at the standings other than for informational purposes, because it's not like, you'd like the number to be smaller, and I think that's what I'm getting at. That they got down to, I think it was 10.5 behind the Brewers, and that just didn't look good. Now it's 8.5, and that's not much different. It's not going to change how the deadline is approached, I don't think. But just in general, you'd like to see them competitive, and one game out of the wild card, 8.5 back in the division. Just a couple games behind the Cubs for second. That's competitive, and again, as we've said so often this year, so much better than we expected when we started this whole thing, that it's really hard to complain about anything about where they are now.
Sure. Yeah, that's you buy into the expectations for better or worse a lot of times, and you just kind of wonder, well, this big if and this big if have to happen for them to be anywhere in contention. And while while the records don't necessarily look different from the past 2 to 3 years, the feeling of the team does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I know that you covered it in the last show, but I think that I think there's a lot of momentum when you see the extension of Weatherholt, and then you see what Walker does. And I know we're going to get into that in a little bit, but there's momentum going right now. And while it's easy. It may just be best to look away from the standings and to see the other things and the other positivities that are taking place. And now that I think that we're trusted in what the program means, and not it makes it for the more interesting deadline, because it may have changed the perception of even what the front office thought was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Might have. I still feel like this is a front office that, more than anything, is really kind of focused on a goal, and they know that goal isn't going to happen this year. And I think, and we've talked about this some, but I think this is a front office that's willing to take maybe unpopular chances to continue that goal, and then trading off players even while they're in the race. And we've talked about that over the last few years of opportunities that they had and things they could have done, and realizing that they really weren't the team that they thought they were, and they really never took a aggressive advantage of that. And I mean, I don't know that they're not going to tear this team down when they're at a game out of the wild card, but they may still make moves that you normally wouldn't. And I'm very interested to see what that happens. We can talk about that in a little bit. You mentioned the Weatherholt extension, and like I said, Bernie and I talked about that extensively last week. But what were your thoughts when you heard it, and how did you react?
Well, it was funny. I felt like it wasn't necessarily surprising, but I mean, I was all for it. I was kind of buying into the fact that, hey, with him being kind of an older rookie, a college player, that I didn't know if he would make sense necessarily compared to what some of the other ball clubs were doing of buying out guys earlier. But, I was glad to see it just due to the commitment, that, hey, they're going to buy into this situation. And then, the comments of, one of many in the press conference was intriguing to me, to see that, hey, that could go several different ways, and it is, and I mean, actions speak louder than words. So we'll wait to see how that plays out. But no, I was all for it. I like the double down while things are hot right now of, hey, this is who we're going to be. This is the future. This is what it's going to look like. Let's start showing that now. We talk about this a lot. That cup of goodwill is being filled again, and where we thought it has run dry the past couple of years. I think that the new regime is really doing the things right now to show that, hey, we're all in on this. These are the faces that are going to keep around, and they're going to try to fill the ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt that there's a much better, a more forgiving vibe, I guess, if you will, toward the front office right now. I mean, new people will get that anyway, but the moves that they have made have strengthened that as well. I wanted to, you touched on it, and we've seen this a lot mentioned. The Bill DeWitt said something about one of hopefully many, or something of that nature. This is Bill DeWitt III, who has had his issues with public speaking at times. I'd be interested to know if there was really anything behind that, or if that was just hopefully we would be able to extend some players. That's kind of what you want to do with these kind of, and not more of a generic statement, or if they're actually down the road with some of these guys talking about what they're going to do. I think a lot of people have kind of jumped on that as, we're going to see more extensions coming down the pike. And for me, it almost felt a little bit like just a general cliche type of thing to say.
Sure. And I wondered how to take that. I mean, it's, and that's why I made that comment. I mean, it's, actions speak louder than words type deal. So, I mean, it's easy to say those things at a time when you're playing better than what was expected. You're bringing in one of a guy that should have been an all-star, maybe in the rookie of the year conversation. All those things, you're hitting on all cylinders, and you make one of those comments, and it seems like, okay, well, they're going to get ready to open this up, and when Walker, Burleson, all these guys are getting ready to be long-term guys. But I understand too some of the apprehension that with that, for lack of a better term, that you just had about what this actually means. I did kind of wonder if we could read between the lines, and it may mean different things to different people.
Yeah. And again, it may have been just an acknowledgement of it takes both sides to come to some sort of agreement, right? I mean, They may be like, hey, we're open to it, but we don't know about them, or hey, this is a general idea. We haven't really hoped to do this soon, but who knows? Hopefully, though, I mean, and especially after this week, you would think that maybe there would be another push for an extension, because this week was Jordan Walker week. And that it's amazing, when Jordan Walker said he was going to do the home run derby, I thought, okay, that's fun. That's cool. And obviously Jordan Walker has plenty of power. But I didn't necessarily expect much out of it. He put on not even the ending, which is epic and incredible, and we can talk about, but the whole show was just a remarkable highlight of who Jordan Walker is.
Yeah, sure. And it has, it was awesome through and through, and I knew that there was a little bit of concern with him doing it, just because of the ups and downs of what his career has been so far. It's a lightning rod right now, and it was awesome. To see how it came out, not only to win it but to compete and tie the first. Contreras comes out and sets a record in the first round of what he does, and Walker comes out and matches it, and you kind of thought, well, you may have something here, because he's probably a BP monster anyway. Mm-hmm. And man, he just hit some lasers, and it looked like he was doing it really, really easy. So yeah, it was great. On a personal note, I'll say this: I'm glad that he said some of the things now on the social aspect of him winning it, and what it means to inner cities to help to have these guys come and play. You know what I mean? And to revive it kind of leads back to the RBI programs and stuff like that, and the athleticism to bring it out and all kinds of things. Some of the things that he was touching on as far as bringing kids of color in. It I don't know, using the platform well. I was really, really impressed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was really nice and amazing to see him do that. And it was also, we found out, I didn't know until all this, that he has a foundation for helping education. It's Walker's Winners, and you can go over and contribute to that if you want. It's a pretty cool little thing. But yeah, just to go back to the Derby, you're right. He never looked like he actually swung hard. He just kind of flicked the bat out there, and those balls jumped. And I guess we've seen this, right? Jordan Walker doesn't really change. Jordan Walker still has the same kind of, calm. I don't know. It sometimes it may be because the way he said it now, it's almost empty. It's just this. He's just there. He's just kind of. I don't know how to describe it, but it's Jordan Walker, and he was exactly the same in the home run derby as he is when you watch him in a game. But just the pairing of him and Tehran obviously worked out well. It was incredible. But yeah, man, and I gotta say, I know Schwarber said all the right things, and that's, he was gracious enough. But man, you put that camera on him when Jordan Walker's hitting those last couple, and he's just, I don't know. He was not happy. You've got to admit. The guy wanted to win. He's in his home park. He's got his fans. Yeah. He's got this great thing. He's all fired up about he's going to bring this home. and to see this guy that I'm sure he probably never gave a whole lot of thought to, just going in there, just hitting home run after home run, and he kept waiting for it to end, and it never did. You kind of feel for him, but it was also kind of like, oh man, that's a great shot.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm somewhat of this may not go over well here. I've always kind of liked Schwarber, and I did get a little motivated when you saw Harper say it's over.
Uh-huh.
And whenever that started, I was like, yeah, let's see how this works.
Yeah.
And then to see that, hey, you may be running out of a little bit of steam and then pick up the momentum. But yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. They were thinking the storyline was going to be the hometown hero in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we give grief to Bryce Harper, and we should, because he was saying that with like when Schwarber was like 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't even this last one.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah. But when Schwarber hit 11 in 15 swings, you're like, I mean, honestly, I was like, I hope Jordan can, make it competitive. And let's, not just, get burned out, because I mean, we've seen it so often, right? We saw Albert, I mean, granted a different type of, they changed the format, so that may make a difference, but Albert beat Schwarber in 22 and then fell in the finals, right? And Mark McGwire a number of years ago, great second round, the huge second round, fell in the final. So, obviously no Cardinal had ever won the home run derby. So, 11 down to a home run, you have to almost be perfect. I thought, well, let's see if we can make it competitive.
Yeah.
And just, he hits 8, he hits 9, he hits 10. And then it's like, I sure hope he doesn't, because that's so often in sports, right? The guy gets that little push and then it falls short. And I was like, I sure hope it doesn't. And it didn't. It was amazing to watch him just, and just to hear the crowd get about as quiet as in Minute Maid 2005.
Yeah.
And just the reaction of Philly fans was pretty cool too.
Yeah. You silenced a rough crowd, with all the booing and all that good stuff. So yeah, it was a big night. I mean, I thought that was a huge night for Walker, and a big night for the Cardinals, to potentially get back on the national map here a little bit. I mean, it was a great finish and exciting. I liked the format, meaning they'll probably change it again next year. You never know, you know what I mean, how it all works out. But no, I mean, I was fired up. That was one of those fist pump moments when he caught fire, when he tied it up, and you kind of knew that, hey, this is getting ready to be over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And I noticed somebody pointed it out. I don't remember who. I saw it on Twitter. But somebody pointed out it's a little bit of a experience boost for at least Walker to have gone into a hostile crowd and been able to perform, right? I mean, because that's what's going to happen whenever the Cardinals get into a serious postseason run. It's you're going to have to go into enemy territory, and having this experience, while it doesn't necessarily mean anything in the standings or anything like that, it's still an experience of knowing that you can do what you want to do when everybody's against you. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of wins on that one, and you just, a huge pat on the back about how it all turned out. I mean, it was really, really exciting. The highlight of the break, obviously, and it gives you a little bit of momentum going into the night.
Yeah, hopefully. I was on with Scott Plaza and Ethan Hannaford on Scott's Cardinals on My Time show, which I think he released yesterday. And, I always go back to the first year when I started writing. It's the reason I started writing 19 years ago was the Cardinals had some momentum. It was a rough year. Now it's a different year. It's 2007. And the Cardinals had obviously coming off the World Series, had struggled. Carpenter went out on opening day. It had been a problem, but they had won some games going into the break. I think they closed the gap. There's some reports that Carpenter was about to get back on her rehab assignment. There just felt like a lot of momentum around the Cardinals going into the break. And then the first inning after the break, Kip Wells gives up like 4 runs to the Phillies in the top of the first. And, it all went down. And then I think after the game, like Carpenter had a setback and all the momentum went away. So just basically momentum. It does feel like there's a lot of buzz around this team right now, and there should be. And I think it's a totally different team, not saying the same thing, but, as all that momentum can go flat if I think it's Michael McGreevy's going tonight if he struggles against the Diamondbacks early on, right? I mean, and then we start, if the Cardinals lose tonight and the Brewers win and the Marlins win, and then all of a sudden you're starting that, then you start talking about, well, they struggled after the break last year. Oh, well, when do they start selling? There's a lot of that kind of feeling. So I like how the Cardinals are in this position right now, and it has been a fun break. But I kind of guess it kind of goes back to what Chaim Bloom says. They haven't proven anything yet. They haven't done anything yet, and that can go away really quickly.
Yeah, and then that's the West Coast trip aspect of it always worries me a little bit too. That you start on the road and there's late games right away, and all those things. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's house money at this point, and it's it's a good time to be a Cards fan, and they haven't ruined summer. That's part of my long-term goal, or my goal every year, and also it just points to the life of this podcast of positivity on one side, negative in the other, and I'll let the listeners figure out where that comes from.
I didn't say it was going to happen. I'm just saying.
Hey, I did. That's all I'm saying.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to. I mean, and there's no way. I guess to go back to your ruining the summer thing right now. There's no way. There's no way.
Nah. Yeah.
I mean, they could lose every game the rest of the way, and I don't think we would have a problem. Well, we probably have a little bit of a problem then.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, even playing under 500 for this, as we call it, second half, even though it's, more like the last 40% of the season, even playing under 500 would not be the worst thing, especially with what we have seen, the development of Jordan Walker, the coming out of JJ Weatherholt, getting some clarity on some things. It's definitely been a season that's been beyond expectations, and it's we look forward to seeing how it all wraps up.
Yeah, I mean, in reality too. I mean, we're on record of worrying about how the innings are going to hold up on the mound. Mm-hmm. And that's a concern I have now that we're getting into the dog days and all that, and that will be the issue, for me, is to see how well the pitching can hold up, and I'm not so certain they have enough for a playoff run, but I welcome a surprise. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The Cardinals set their, like I said, Michael McGreevy goes today, Palante goes tomorrow, and then I can't remember who's going.
It's McGreevy, May, Palante.
Oh, McGreevy, May, Palante. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, any of that is? Are you surprised? I mean, part of me is a bit surprised at they start McGreevy, not because of anything that McGreevy's done. Obviously, he's been one of the best pitchers, and that's understandable. But he's going to be starting to hit that innings, kind of that innings range.
Yeah.
Soon if he hasn't already, so to start him here. On the flip side, here we are in the first series back. You're not going to see Matthew Liberatore, who in theory is, was your opening day starter. And obviously Liberatore struggled. Are you a little bit surprised at how they're setting up this rotation coming out of the break?
I was curious to see how they were going to do it just due to how it ended. But yeah, you're right. It was funny when I saw that when they announced it yesterday. I thought, well, this is interesting. But then I thought, well, I don't know if they have any other options. Yeah, I think that they're going to try to protect Liberatore a little bit. Who's kind of rebounded in his last couple starts, compared to what, we were kind of death nailing him, 2 weeks ago. And rightfully so, to be honest. But but yeah, I did kind of wonder about that. And then, I don't know much about the Angels. I know that roster's and ever turning. So I'm really not sure about how that's going to line up, considering that's where, we'll see Liberatore next. Yeah, I did. When it was McGreevy, I did kind of wonder how it all lined up. But after 5 days off, they could have done it however they wanted to. But in the long term, I thought, well, this is essentially. I mean, right now, I'm not sure where the confidence comes in the five of them, out of the five of them, the most.
Yeah. Well, I think that, and I wonder. I mean, I would think if I was them, you'd be pushing May, which, I mean, if he's second, that was understandable. You want May to make as many starts as you can for the deadline, right? For you. I mean, not just more than anything for health issues. Make sure everybody knows that he's healthy and what he's going to be. Because, there's still 85% chance he gets traded probably, right? So I can see that. It's just a little bit interesting. And I don't know. We're talking about this innings cap. We don't know what that's going to look like. I know there seems to be some interesting movement. There's a lot of pitchers at Memphis now, and then Rangel Sinjay gets moved up to Memphis. So there's like 6 or 7 guys down there that are starters, and you wonder, what that's going to mean for the Cardinals here. I mean, 20 games in 20 days, trade deadline, all that kind of stuff, plus innings issues. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they manage the pitching over the last little bit. But I don't know. I mean, I think ideally, if you're a competitive team, you're going to run in your 1, 2, 3 out of here after the break. And if you want to look at the Cardinals and saying that's McGreevy, May, and Palante, and that's definitely not what we would have thought of at the beginning of the year.
Sure, and that's kind of goes back to that. Have we ever been convinced that they have that true one? Well, and not in a sense of you're looking at a Cole Scooble, those type of guys. I'm just saying, as a guy that's going to go out there, you think that he's going to give you your best chance to win every night. I think that we're comfortable with the rotation, but we don't think it's great by any means. So.
Right.
I don't know where that's going to go. I did think a lot of the Memphis movement was interesting because then, I'm not even going to attempt his name, but the where I'm going with this, the 2-arm thrower, the promotion of that was interesting because I thought, well, that's kind of an aggressive move, but who's ready next to come up? That's another thing that I'm really just not that sure of. Are we going to see a Dobbins before too long back? I would assume a yes. But other than that, I really don't know. I wish I had a better answer. I guess I should pay more attention about some of the guys that can fill in right away in the rotation because I feel like that's where things are going to be short. Offensively, yeah, it's been hit or miss there, but I think they'll stay in games just as much as what where they are. I just worry about the rotation a bit, and part of that worry comes from what's next if they have trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Dobbins is the easy answer because he's on the 40-man. He has pitched in the majors this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does again. That stretch of games is going to be tough on the pitching staff between now and I think August 5th is the last of that stretch. So I expect Dobbins will. Quentin Matthews has pitched well. As of late, he has kind of really regained that prospect luster that he had, and it feels like he's knocking on the door. The problem is he's not on the 40-man, and so you have to get him there, and that 40-man's a problem. With Tekoa Roby and Richard Fitz, both kind of guys that are in the minors but aren't healthy, and you can't put them on the 60-day unless you promote them, and so you're really kind of playing with a 38-man roster. And
yes,
there's not just a lot of dead weight on there like there has been in the past. There are not guys that you just say, oh yeah, let's get rid of that guy. I mean, there's guys that are struggling, but I mean, like, you're not just going to waive Nolan Gorman, even though he's, in Memphis, right? I mean,
yeah.
So trying to figure that out, unless they get active in the trade market a little earlier than we think, I mean, you trade off a guy that's, trade a guy that's on your 40-man for a prospect or two that's not, and suddenly you've got a free spot, and do that 2 or 3 times, and you can really remake your 40-man roster. And I feel like that's probably what's going to happen here in the next couple of weeks is if they're going to get guys like Matthews or Joshua Baez, if you're looking offensively, or anybody else that needs to come up, or if they feel is ready to come up, to create a spot, I think they're going to probably have to move somebody off the major league roster, and that's going to be interesting to see how they do that.
Yeah. Do you expect that to be the direction they go?
What do you mean?
Well, as in, do you think that there will be? Do you think there's going to be significant movement one way or the other?
Man, it's hard to. I mean, part of me is like, you don't want to necessarily think they're just going to like strip it down like they have the last couple of years, but then on the other hand, how much does having Ryan Stanek around matter to you this year?
Sure.
Right?
Well,
so I think I think they could make 3 to 4 moves, or at least 3 or 4 players leave this roster pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I wonder about that. And it was what I had kind of been under that assumption the whole time. And that's what to me was the most intriguing, because I wanted to see, like, they're at a very, I bring up the Weatherholt signing as far as, and the Cup of Goodwill, like we bring up a lot, because I think that may have gone hand in hand to what could potentially happen here in a month. To where, yeah, your best team that you can throw out right now in a competitive nature involves a new bar, a May, so to speak, a Stanek, a Romero, those names. Could that signing preemptively say, hey, this is what we're doing, this is still the future, and move those guys out, knowing that you may take a step back in the standings and still buy into the fact that, hey, the future is bright on this? Yeah, I mean, I think that we know that question exists. I wonder about the curiosity for me comes from how the front office is going to thread that needle to keep people engaged as far as the fandom goes, to bring people to the ballpark in August and September. One of those things that's clearly something that has been a plan, because we've heard about the attendance for dwindling for 3 years. I'm just kind of curious to see how this goes in the next couple of weeks, especially being on the road, then coming back competitive and all those things. Rosenthal yesterday I've always felt like he's one of the more trusted or on the pulse, and made a comment that, yeah, they may be short in rotation pieces, but they're definitely going to go for this, that they're going to try. They think that they could get in, and not necessarily, I'm not on his term was, I don't know if they could win a playoff series, but they do feel like they can get in on this. And he was on Foul Territory saying the same thing, which kind of makes me wonder what he's hearing as far as what the Cardinals are doing as far as movement and whatnot. And, when you hear one of those things, you do kind of wonder if it wouldn't be bringing somebody in, not necessarily on a short-term gig, but, to kind of buy some innings, so to speak, or how that'll play out. So that's why I was asking, just what your opinion is on some of these expiring contracts, or not necessarily expiring contracts, but guys that you can see that may not hit the competitive window they have of the 2 to 3 year type situation, whether they would move out or not, and to see kind of what you thought would happen.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Rosenthal also had an article in the Athletic about some questions, and he had a paragraph about the Cardinals, and even noticing that they're probably not strong enough to win it, but playing meaningful games in September would count its own value.
Yeah.
I've kind of said, and I wrote it to Substack, and I think we talked about it last week. My thinking is, from a keeping fans engaged standpoint, if you trade Dustin May, but then you bring up Quinn Matthews, you've got people excited about the new thing. Right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Knowing that they might take a step back, you're still excited about the new thing. If you trade Lars Nootbaar and you bring up Joshua Baez, then you have the same type of thing. You got that buzz around a new guy, a guy that's hopefully going to go out and capture some imaginations. the bullpen pieces, there's just not there. I mean, they brought up Gastelum this week, and so that's really the only interesting bullpen piece, and even that's more of a online following the game kind of, hey, this guy's pretty good, versus a casual fan, who just maybe catches news here and there. And even so, I don't know that there's any more of those kind of pieces down there. There's just arms. I mean, you always find an arm, but they may not be. We'll see how good they are. But yeah, I think, I think Bernie may have been on the show yesterday, or maybe he wrote it somewhere, but it's that idea of, okay, well then, you make these trades and then sign Jordan Walker to an extension on July 29th, and everybody's talking about the extension and not worrying about the trade, that kind of stuff. Kind of like we did with JJ. You could put your marker down on the future by making trades that bring up these big prospects and locking up somebody like Jordan or Mason Wynn or somebody else that's going to be a key part of the next few years. And you could probably sell it that way, as saying, we know it's been good, it's going to be better, and these are the guys that bring it to you. That being said, there's a lot of bullpen pieces that could go. Yeah. I don't even hear his name come up very much, but Justin Brule's on a 1-year contract, and he's a lefty, and he's been fairly solid after that first month or so. Brule, Stanek, I don't know. Would they trade? I mean, we've had this discussion. Romero's in that mix too. And then we've had that discussion a long time ago. Do they trade Riley O'Brien? Now, Riley O'Brien is not at the top of the closer ranks like he was 2 months ago, but he's also an all-star now. He's also been kind of effective. He's also got more control. Do you go that deep with a team that is hopefully still going to kind of stick around a little bit? Do you really want to revamp, and trade off, half your bullpen?
Yeah. That's those are the interesting questions to see that. I think that we've been surprised in other situations where they've moved pieces out and gave opportunities to younger guys, and the bullpen actually became better. That's a scary gamble, though. And depending on, I mean, we know this is 100% long-term outlook moves. I think I agree with you on O'Brien, and it was one of those I wouldn't mind seeing him go. Is not maybe poor choice of words, but wouldn't be surprised if that was or wouldn't necessarily be hurt if that was the one of the moves that was made. But I do think that's one of those gut punch moves that could wreck a clubhouse pretty quick. We've seen it just due to the light that's brought on any closer. But yeah, all this leads back to just adds into a year that we thought was going to be extremely interesting. They've made much more interesting by being competitive, and we can see that. This is a young, energetic lineup that you could see for a while. But it kind of puts the front office feet to the fire of how are we going to manage this, and how much are we open for business, or how much are we going to keep guys around with the fact that, or with the idea that we could get in and make this thing pretty interesting. So the next month or the next few weeks could get really, really, really interesting for everybody, because then we're going to hear every report that you go and lose 2 or 3 to the Diamondbacks, which in theory, I mean, the Diamondbacks are in the same spot, which could happen pretty easy. Mm-hmm. Right. By Monday, hey, this guy's available, then you go out and let's say you sweep Anaheim, well then the narrative changes a little bit. So I think that none of the short-term games are going to make too big of a difference about what the long-term goal is going to be. But I'm curious to see how they're going to prove that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel more confident that this front office is going to basically ignore the results on the field for the next couple weeks versus, and again, because they're coming at it a different way, because they're looking at it for 28, 29 maybe, instead of putting the Band-Aid on and making sure, because it's so important to get to the postseason, that was the end of Mo's term here, and that's understandable. I mean, there was just a different focus, and we did want them to make the playoffs if at all possible. We still want them to make the playoffs, but it's just not the primary goal necessarily right now. And so I feel like you're right. As fans, they lose 2 of 3, and we're talking about selling, and they win sweep Anaheim, and it's like, well, maybe they could just keep these guys, or maybe they could add a little bit. We're doing that, and Heim, Bloom and Company are not. I think they are, talking to the teams and trying to get the best value. And I think there are arms, like Stanek and maybe even Romero, that are just going to get moved. I mean, hopefully they get something really good for them, but they're willing, like Stanek could be a lottery ticket. Dustin May, they probably have a price, right? That if they don't reach it, then we'll keep Dustin May. That's fine. Lars Nootbaar definitely is that way. I mean, I feel like they're open on Lars Nootbaar, but they're not giving him away for a couple of single A prospects that you've never heard of. That being said, they've done pretty good about picking some single A prospects. The guy they got back for Nick Riquette has done pretty well. I think there was another one that I was just listening to an old Walton and Reese right now talking about that.
Yeah.
They've been able to do pretty well at identifying players they know that they can develop. So yeah, sometimes we might be underwhelmed with the return, but I still think they're going to hold out for something pretty good for guys like, especially for Nootbaar, that they have under control for another year.
Yeah.
But even Dustin May, who, there's mutual options. He's not likely to come back, but I think Dustin May is also one of those possibility chances that one of the few times in a mutual option might actually get an exercise, that they both sides would be open to a return at a price like that. Probably not, like 95% chance not, but I think it is one of the rare chances that you could see a player say, this is a spot that's worked for me, plus the uncertainty of the offseason with the CBA and everything. And I could see the Cardinals saying, having that veteran around and having the option of maybe trading him next year could be valuable as well. So I'm not, again, I think that's a roundabout way of saying they're not just giving away Dustin May. I think they'll have to, somebody will have to hit the price. I think it's also very likely that somebody will hit that price.
All that being said, I do want to ask, would this be a disappointment of a deadline and a black eye on what we've been told the focus is of the organization if they did nothing at this deadline?
Maybe. If they did absolutely nothing, I would say yes, because I mean you should be able to trade at least one of those bullpen arms for somebody that you think is developmental. I think, yeah, but I mean, again, not being in the room, it would feel like that. But, again, if it's like, well, the only offer we got for Dustin May was half a piece of chewed bubble gum, then that's, you don't want them to do that kind of thing. So it's a difficult thing, but I agree. It'd be very surprising, and you would wonder a little bit about what's going on if at least some moves didn't get made at the deadline.
Yeah. Just hearing your side, I thought, all of that makes complete sense. And and in the backside, I was like, well, what kind of, if there wasn't, you're always going to have your detractors no matter what happens at the deadline. I mean, I get that. I'm not naive to that, and probably give more credit to the naysayers than they deserve. One of those type of situations. But I did kind of wonder. I mean, if you're around and you feel like you have this ball club, you don't necessarily have to trade Newt Barr, but he's one that can probably bring back the most. You know, May has seemed to he's had his ups and downs, but enjoys it in St. Louis. And I know you seem like, just due to history, that you're just, it's a race against time fighting a potential injury with May. But if you are where you are, you have you had a good draft, reportedly a great draft. You've made moves. I mean, is there any benefit to standing pat and seeing if you can get into September, and that being the long term, that being the carrot, so to speak, of you got in, hey, this is what we need to do, moving forward? Or is it a situation where you feel like you have to get some of the pieces with some of the expiring guys that you have? That's I don't know. I mean, I think that makes it all the more interesting about what we're getting ready to see.
I don't know that they'll feel like they have to get pieces. I mean, the front office.
Yeah.
I think they'd like to. They obviously want to continue to raise the floor of the whole system. But, there also comes a point where there's only so many spots, only so many ways to develop players. So, again, if they can get what they want, they'll be good with it. I would be very surprised they couldn't get what they wanted for at least a couple of those bullpen arms. But we'll see. We'll see how aggressive they want to be. It's 2 weeks from Monday is the deadline, so it's a late deadline this year. I still not real confident on this whole shifting the deadline around type of thing. I know why they do it. I know that they don't want to necessarily do these things on the weekend, have them come up on the weekend and everything, but having that July 31st at midnight deadline was always a lot of fun when we were growing up and spending all night. You don't get any hug watch these days. I mean, you just really don't, right? I mean, the deals don't get made during the games, so you don't get the chance of, hey, this guy got pulled out, and you don't get a lot of that anymore. And that's it's something that we've lost as a society. So
yeah, it's funny. It's also one of those. I kind of missed the waiver deadline too. And it's, I don't know why. I mean, I just felt like that added another bit of excitement to it, and the mystery of, hey, who claimed who, type situation now. I kind of miss those days a little bit, not to be yelling at the clouds.
Well, I mean, the Cardinals did so well with that, right? I mean,
it was awesome. Yeah.
The Woody Williams for Ray Langford trade was made afterwards.
Yep.
The Larry Walker trade was made afterwards. I'm trying to think. It feels like there was another one or two. But, there were some significant trades that the Cardinals have made that were in that waiver period. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. And I understand why they somewhat got rid of it, because it did seem, But also, the problems around the deadline is the problem with expanded rosters. And, expanded playoffs and everything of that nature is, everybody in mediocre teams, everybody thinks they're in it, right? I mean, who's trading away players? Because, the Mets know they're not. Though Giants have kind of talked about selling too, but there's only like a handful of teams, maybe 2 or 3 teams that really don't feel like they're in it, even though there are teams that shouldn't feel like they're in it. They're only like 2 or 3 games out of that wild card, and then they think, well, if we can get there, who knows? So that's that's kind of what we're talking about here with the Cardinals. If they're kind of going against type, if that's the case, if they do sell when they're this close, because that's just not what baseball typically does, which means that it's harder to have some really interesting trades. Yeah,
it's you brought back a lot of memories on some of those that were the rush, and to figure out how those trades actually happened, which was always a mystery. I understand that baseball's trying to do things for reasons, but sometimes they take some of the excitement out of it, which at one point we probably thought was as mundane as anything.
Anyway, we did talk about the fact that the Cardinals had the draft this week. And from all accounts, again, this is not a place you come to for analysis of that kind of thing. There are 800 other places in Cardinal Nation that will give you better information than we will. But the Cardinals had a good draft from everybody's. Seems to be pretty common across not only Cardinal Nation but national evaluators as well. The Cardinals take Trevor Condon with the first pick, and Alan, I got to tell you, and I've said it online, I'm a little concerned because this guy keeps getting compared to Pete Crow Armstrong.
Yeah,
Like
I
Pete Crow Armstrong.
literally just read that, and that's what's funny about you bringing that up. So yeah, oh yeah, I get it,
and hopefully not. I mean, again, if there's no doubt that Pete Crow Armstrong is a very talented player, and if Trevor Condon's game is like that, that's a great thing. Personality, hopefully not as much. And again, I there's no doubt that part of the problem that I have with PCA, there's a lot. I mean, there's not all of it. Part of it is he's playing for the Cubs, right? So if you have your own, it's much like the Wilson Contreras, right? If he's on your side, it's a lot easier to deal with. So, but he sounds like a very talented player, and look forward to seeing how that pans out. Cardinals have signed a lot of their top 10. I think they're missing. It looks like 4 according to this sheet here online, and then most of the ones after that. I'm not going to sign the last 2, but some of those other ones haven't at least officially signed.
Sure,
but it looks like there's going to be pretty interesting influx of talent. I don't know that any of these guys, how many if any, will get a chance to play this year, but they're names to keep an eye on. But for once, over the last couple of years, the Cardinals have taken a guy that they don't necessarily expect to be in the major leagues in 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, J.J. Weatherholt had the quick run. Liam Doyle, is at Double-A. He may not be as fast a riser as we all expected, but he's pretty close. Condon being a high school player, he's probably 4 or 5 years away.
Sure. Yeah. One of the biggest takeaways that I like with the draft now is I know that some people are pushing back on this, but the high school kids are the outliers, just because they're closing that gap between college baseball and pro baseball so quickly. All reports out there that this kid has the motor to be a stud, in the long run. And that's exciting. But, it was a lot of college players taken out after that, all the way down the list, and I do kind of wonder what how the expectation of how quickly these guys make it to the big exchanges after the next collective bargaining. If they're going to shorten that window and guys get paid more quickly. Yeah, that's it's going to be interesting. But as far as going back to the draft, I recognize a lot of the names on this. Just so they took a surprisingly large amount of Big 12 players. And which I think is a damn good conference anyway. But yeah, it was kind of exciting, and we'll see how quick some of these guys make it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there was some expectation that we were going to see some guys fairly quickly. It's coming, but not at the pace that we thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I'm sure that there will be some that come out of this draft that get, some of those college players, that move up really quickly. There's some idea of Cal Randall from UCA. It depends on if they turn him into a starter, I might slow him down some. I mean, that seems to be what they're planning to do. But a guy that, from all indications, and I'm definitely not a person to ask, but it seems to have at least the fastball to be ready for the major leagues almost immediately. There's still more games to be developed. But I don't know. I mean, it's just going to be interesting. A lot of new names to put in this thing, and a lot more prospects to follow. Again, the Cardinals fan base is so blessed with the fact that there are so many guys that are focused on the minor leagues. I mean, you got Brian Walton, Kyle Reese over there doing that. And Kyle will be on probably every other show pretty soon, and we'll have him on at some point in time as well. But there's Ripper Farmhand, there's Adam Magnani, there's so many. I mean, we can't,
and it takes a lot of work. It's impressive.
Yeah, I mean the what they've done and putting up, websites and in apps and everything else that you can keep track of these guys. It's pretty incredible. So if you're interested in following Cardinals prospects, even at a casual level, there's plenty of information out there for you to do, and you should be able to do that pretty well. So Alan, second half, as it were, starts Arizona. To go along with this, the calendar for the schedule for 2027 came out yesterday as well. And I've got to say, as you pointed out, last year they come out of the break, they go to Arizona. This year they come out of the break, they go to Arizona. I noticed looking at next year's, they're in Wrigley Field for 4th of July again.
Yeah.
Next year. It does feel like there are times like they take last year's calendar and then just make a few modifications here or there, but there's a lot of stuff that's similar. And I don't know what to say about it other than I still hate the balanced schedule.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, there's some. I know this is never going to happen, and I understand. And I was a big proponent of this as far as marketing the game and one of those things. There's a part of me that would like to get back to the non-interleague.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's I just for a lot of historical balance and things like that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's other than the opening weekend, when you look at that, it's almost copy and paste to what it has been.
I saw somebody on, I think it was on Blue Sky this week, and it was a point that I never thought of, but it really makes sense. Is if you're talking about wanting to improve, offense, at least on the margins, is get rid of interleague play and go back to more divisional play, because these guys could then see, if you start seeing fewer pitchers, you get to see them more often, and you get comfortable with them. And you're not having to prepare for 300 to 400 pitchers on a year. And I mean, it's not going to make everything perfect. It's not ever going back to where it was, but with all these relievers and how you do things, but that would be a step toward improving the offense. Now, that would also possibly take money away from people, or at least think it would. And that's probably never going to happen. But I mean, it would be nice, I think, for me and you, and granted, we grew up in that era, to go back to the, play the National League and play the division a lot more often. Because, I mean, it used to be, even just a couple of years ago, before this balanced schedule, you really felt like you knew who was on the Pirates, you knew who was on the Reds, you knew what was going on with these teams because you saw them all the time, and you felt, there was a bit of a rivalry or, things. And now, when you could be, spaced out so much, it's really hard to get a feel for a team, I feel like. I will say the good thing about next year's schedule is that it ends in September with 12 straight divisional games.
Yes.
So that's at least nice.
Yeah, and that's I was trying to bring it up, but yeah, aren't they the last 12 or 15 at home
next year?
Yeah.
I want to say that maybe. I wanted to say it was more like maybe 6 on the road, but
is it okay? I was going to say I would just
sure. Let me see
rolling through it quickly. Yeah.
Let's see, 2027, September 2027. They play the Pirates on the road. They play the Reds on the road. Then they play the Brewers at home and the Pirates at home. So
okay.
Now most of September is at home. They play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series at home versus 2 series on the road. Plus they end a series on September 1st with the Dodgers. So they're mainly at home in September. It's just that last little stretch is kind of split evenly.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So yeah, I again, schedule making is an impossible job with everything.
Oh man,
yeah. I'm not, but it would be easier probably if you didn't have to do all this, balanced schedule stuff. Cardinals will start with the Reds next year before going to Chicago. It's the earliest we've seen the Cubs in a long time. There was the last couple of years, it seems like all the trips to and from Wrigley or when the Wrigley there in Chicago and St. Louis are all kind of crammed in between May into May and the beginning of August. It's got to be kind of interesting to be in. It's going to be interesting to be in Wrigley in March. That's going to be a miserable experience. But anyway,
I hear you.
Yeah, it is nice, but we will, and that's of course assuming the season starts on time, which is still debatable.
Yeah.
So anyway, anything we hadn't covered? I feel like we maybe started a topic and I don't know that we finished it, but I don't know what it was. So
yeah, not off the top of my head.
All right. Well, that's good enough for this week. So, Alan, I'll be back with you next week. Like I said, we got the Diamondbacks, the Angels, another game with the Diamondbacks, that makeup game.
Yeah.
Before. So a lot of that to talk about. Hopefully we're talking about, may have a little bit more clarity about the deadline at that point in time. But until then, for Alan, I'm Daniel. Good night.
Good night.
Shots on the board with a home run right here. A homer wins it, a non-homer, and we're going to a swing-off. Baseball is not afraid. Is that enough? Jordan Walker! Come on, baby!
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.